Yeah. 3-6, mafia.
Yeah.
Whoa. Hey, yeah. Whoa.
Say what? Whoa. 3-6 mafia. It's going down. Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you. In the club, in the street. Shut up! Y'all know what time it is. Get ready for it. Oh, man alive. Wait to be quick. Step up, bring it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to No B.S. Season 3, Episode 3. Isaiah, Furman, welcome back. How are you guys doing tonight? Isaiah, I'll start with you. How are you doing tonight?
Trevor, I am doing good. I'm a little bit sleep deprived because, this morning I woke up with the anticipation that one Matthew Stafford would be traded to my San Francisco 49ers. I had been hearing a lot of rumors, a lot of rumblings, the last few days indicating that a Matthew Stafford trade was imminent. And I thought, my guys Javier Vega and Benjamin Albright, who we had here on the MI6 Sports Network, very trustworthy guys. Normally, I don't really trust rumors from unverified sources unless it's like from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, or Tom Pelissero, or Mike Garafolo. But Javier Vega and Benjamin Albright, I trust them because we did have them on our show, and they were very trustworthy. And they were reporting that from the Senior Bowl down in Mobile, Alabama, where a lot of the GMs and coaches and agents are right now, it's the place where a lot of the groundwork, the foundation for the offseason gets laid there. And they were reporting that there was a lot of smoke surrounding Matthew Stafford and the 49ers. Javier Vega even said that his sources were telling him that the 49ers and Lions were in deep talks to send Matthew Stafford to the 49ers. And I woke up this morning, I was like, yeah, come on, bring Matthew Stafford to me, man. I want Matthew Stafford as my quarterback. I slept this morning at like 4 a.m. I woke up at 6 a.m., checked my phone to see if there was like a breaking news that Matthew Stafford was a 49er, saw that there was nothing about Matthew Stafford and the 49ers, then went back to bed again, woke up 2 hours later, checked my phone again, nope, no Matthew Stafford to the Niners, then went to bed, checked my phone again after another 2 hours, and, saw that Matthew Stafford was not a 49er. So I kept waking up every 2 hours trying to anticipate if Stafford was going to be a Niner or not. I even, when I was sleeping and I was dreaming that I got that breaking news from Adam Schefter that the Niners had acquired Matthew Stafford, and all of that turned into rubbo as nothing happened today between the Niners and Matthew Stafford. So that wait continues on until tomorrow. So hopefully tomorrow we get the breaking news, but I don't know. I'm just hoping that this can finally end, so this arduous, wait of mine can finally go away, and I can have some good sleep after this wait is over, and my quarterback can finally be a 49er.
Oh, my God. But before I get to Furman, Casey King has a good, statement to add. But we'll talk about Matt Stafford later on in tonight's program. He says, Isaiah, I think Stafford his trade will go basically after the Super Bowl, but he's not sure where Matt Stafford will end up because literally they've been telling everybody that he could literally go anywhere. So we have to wait and see how that goes. But Furman, how are you doing tonight before we get into our NFL segments and, kick off tonight's episode?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about all the topics we'll be discussing together. And I also just want to, I'm really excited, just like Isaiah, about this Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson thing, because I believe in the 49ers, and I think we have a great offense and also a great unit overall to work around, and we should be contenders. So if Matthew Stafford or Deshaun Watson thinks that the 49ers have a chance, it's going to be a great addition for us, and I think this team can definitely become Super Bowl contenders if we have a decent quarterback that can sling the ball and make good decisions. I also want to give a huge shout out to Lonzo Ball tonight, man. You had 27 points and 7 made threes. Wow. And you did it against the Bucks too. And like, this is amazing because throughout this entire season, you've been talked, really badly upon. Like, there's so many trade talks right now that a lot of teams are interested in Ball and the Pelicans are not interested in him. And one thing I just have to say is, please give my man Lonzo Ball a chance. He just redeemed himself tonight. He made himself look like LaMelo Ball tonight, and I think he knows now that he's got to have a wake up call. He's gonna get his shots down. He's finally having the confidence to drive into the basket and making tougher layups. Like, man, Lonzo, why can't you just do this every game? Because if you keep doing this every game, there is no way that the Pelicans are gonna trade you, man. Pelicans, please do not trade this man, Lonzo. Let him play 3 more or 4 more games. And if Lonzo continues to have this type of night, I hope to see an actual career high, because his career high is 29 points. He better score like 30 points within the next 4 days if he continues playing like this.
All right, Furman. And before we go into our first NFL segment, we got to remind our fans, it is day 15 without Callan. We're doing so far so well without Callan. Can't wait for his return, but as the days continue to increase, I will increase the number counter until the day that Callan returns. I'd probably come up with another, a GIF or an emoji or some type of image to celebrate his return. But until then, we'll have Mr. Krabs giving it up for day 15 without Callan. But for tonight, gentlemen, let's dive into our first, quote unquote topic. Is Deshaun Watson is requesting a trade for Houston. And to piggyback off of that, what is the best team for Deshaun Watson to join? I will go to Isaiah. Where do you think Deshaun Watson should end up being in his NFL career in his remaining days?
Well, first of all, let me talk about this move real quick before I get into potential teams for Deshaun Watson. I'm not surprised by this move. I thought it was a foregone conclusion ever since the end of the season when, they had that GM and coaching surge and the Texans asked for Deshaun Watson's opinion, but they decided, not to use any of his advice and not to consider any of the names that he wanted to be the GM and the head coach of that football team. And Deshaun Watson felt betrayed by that. He apparently had to learn via social media that not just when like the DeAndre Hopkins trade broke back in March, he found that out via social media. When the new GM Nick Caserio got hired, he found that out via social media. And as the face of the franchise and the starting quarterback of that team, that's a bad look for that organization, because I don't care like if he's the starting quarterback or if he's like the worst player on your team. None of your players should know who the team hired and who the team traded via social media. That should never, ever happen. You should inform them beforehand of that move before the move is leaked onto social media. I thought it was a terrible job by the Houston Texans, and I think that Houston should be ashamed of themselves. For this move for Deshaun Watson, like I said, it was a foregone conclusion. Deshaun Watson, ever since the GM and the head coaching botched search, you've been hearing the rumors that he wanted out, and yesterday it was made official that he wanted out. But I see it really hard for Deshaun Watson to get traded, because I feel really bad for him with the situation that he currently is right now. But if you look at his contract, the guy's under contract for the next 5 years. He's got his 1 year left of his rookie deal, plus he's got 4 more years of the contract extension that he just signed. So that's 5 years right there. Plus the Houston Texans, they can tag him 3 more times before he becomes an unrestricted free agent. So he's technically under contract for 8 more years. So he could be like, Houston could just be like, hey, Deshaun, we know you're unhappy, but hey, you could be under contract with us for until 2028. So Deshaun Watson, I feel really bad for him. The Texans, if he doesn't report, they can just keep finding him a lot of money. I believe they can fine him up to $15 million. That's a lot of money right there, ladies and gentlemen. And if Deshaun Watson just says like, hey, if you're not going to trade me, I'm not going to play for this franchise, I'm just going to retire, well, he's going to have to give up over $21 million. And that is a lot of money to give up. I see it really, really difficult for Deshaun Watson to get his wish. But I hope Houston does it, because I feel bad for Deshaun Watson. But I think for Houston's case, if they don't get the package that they want, if they don't get like the picks that they want, if they don't get the players that they want, I don't see Deshaun Watson being traded. And I could definitely see Deshaun Watson being a Houston Texan next season. Next season, until Houston finds the right package to deal away Deshaun Watson.
All right. And I guess if they do find the right package, Isaiah, what team do you think he could end up on?
Ooh, that's a very tough question, because right now I think that San Francisco, and we're going to get into this a little bit more later, I think that San Francisco is going to get Matthew Stafford. There's a lot of rumors swirling around that, a lot of smoke. There's just way too much smoke for there not to be fire. So I think San Francisco is out of it. Indianapolis is another team that needs a quarterback, though I don't think the Houston Texans will do it, because why would you trade your franchise quarterback in the division? It just doesn't make sense. I could see Jacksonville, though I don't know if Urban Meyer and the Jaguars are willing to part with that number 1 pick. You know what? I'm going to go with – this is a big surprise. I'm going to go with Denver. The Denver Broncos, I think, could be a legitimate threat to get Deshaun Watson from the Houston Texans, because they got a top pick in this upcoming NFL draft. I believe their pick is number 9 in the draft. They got a lot of salary cap space. They got a bunch of picks the next few years. They can afford to get Deshaun Watson, and Vic Fangio knows he's on the hot seat. If he doesn't win right now or next season, he's going to get fired. So he needs a quarterback that he can plug in and win right away. And Drew Lock is not that guy. They need an upgrade at the quarterback position. So I think right now, for me, I'm leaning towards Denver.
Furman, what about you? Deshaun Watson and his direction, where he could end up landing. So what are your takes on all this, the whole debacle?
I think it's a difficult situation for Deshaun Watson right now, because I feel like the Houston Texans are holding him back. It's definitely a difficult move just to think about, especially for the entire organization. But this is also, all the accumulations of just how terribly this organization has handled their situations, especially with the way they've dealt their players and mismanaged players like Deshaun Watson. I think he was heavily impacted by the DeAndre Hopkins trade, because this Houston Texans team did not look like a rebuilding team at all. And Deshaun Watson, with his stats that he put up this year, it's amazing how well he has played throughout the season, despite losing almost every game for the Houston Texans. So just the loss of DeAndre Hopkins has impacted him by a lot. And I think Bill O'Brien was even worse at managing the team as a GM / head coach. So in his situation right now, I think ideally it's going to be difficult to trade him because of what his restrictions are under contract and what must be required, which most likely will include a lot of first-round draft picks in order to deal with a pretty solid package for Deshaun Watson to leave Houston right now. But I'd say if Deshaun Watson's really focusing on going to a contender, I think the 49ers are an amazing destination for him if the deal is possible. I'm not saying that's the ideal trade right now, because it's obviously going to be very difficult for that to happen. But I would say that there are some other teams that I'm looking at that could fit, that Deshaun Watson could fit really well, because these teams could be contenders. They do have a roster that could back him up, or they have a decent coach or management around that team. So I think Isaiah said that his picks will surprise you. Well, I'm just gonna start with my no-brainers first, and then I'll go with my surprise picks. My first pick for Deshaun Watson is that I think he should go to either the Patriots or the Miami Dolphins, because these teams have a pretty solid organization. You could always rely on a guy like Bill Belichick, and also Deshaun Watson. You know, the Patriots didn't have a really strong offensive core, but if they can build around that within the next, I'd say 1 to 2 years, if you have that solid core and chemistry, you could play really well with Deshaun Watson. And Miami Dolphins, they had a really great season. They went 10-6. They were second place behind Buffalo this year, and this team under Brian Flores really transformed, and they do look like deep playoff contenders to me. So I think Tua definitely had a pretty negative impact to Miami's offense. So adding Deshaun Watson into this team, especially with Miami's terrible offensive line, it will help them a lot to generate a lot of momentum on offense in case anything breaks down. You can really rely on a guy like Deshaun Watson. Now, I'm going to go over some surprise picks right now. I just hope that you guys won't be too shocked by it. But similar to what Isaiah said about the Denver Broncos, I do have a team in mind that's pretty similar to them, and it's the Washington football team. This team has a really good defense, and on offense, they got guys like Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas, and Terry McLaurin. If Deshaun Watson's added to this team, I think these guys are going to have a field day in this division, because look at the rest of these teams, man. The Giants, Cowboys, and Eagles. I think this Washington football team got really lucky this year to win off this division. But if you're going to add Deshaun Watson, you're going to add way more W's to that total. And one other team, this is probably the biggest surprise you guys might anticipate. I think Deshaun Watson should go to the Chicago Bears, despite their terrible organization, because Matt Nagy has actually been a winning team with the Chicago Bears all, I believe, 3 seasons that he spent with them. Like, they've played terrible under Trubisky. They've played terrible under Matt Nagy's offense, but their defense and special teams are still really good. And if you have a guy like Deshaun Watson, they still have playmakers on offense. If Deshaun Watson is able to make better reads, fit better throws, who knows? Because the offensive line is obviously not the best in Chicago. That's why Nick Foles has a lot of trouble scanning the field. But if you have a better decision maker than Trubisky, I think if Deshaun Watson, if you put him in the Chicago Bears, all these players, in my opinion, are playoff contenders. And Matt Nagy and the offensive line is the only thing that's holding them back. Deshaun Watson, in my opinion, solves all of these problems for the players, at least the entire roster. And in my opinion, I think if Deshaun can end up in Chicago, they're going to be really deep playoff contenders, and they're probably going to win the division next year.
All right, Furman, very good takes. I kind of have to agree with you with the Washington football team. I think there's bits and pieces there, but their quarterback issue is what the real problem is. I understand you have Alex Smith, but why put that man in a potential risk to really mess up his own personal life? So Deshaun Watson going to Washington is a good location, but I think it's going to be the AFC North with the Cincinnati Bengals or the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are Ben Roethlisberger is aging at I would say, an alarming rate in the NFL world. I understand, you have Tom Brady who's 43, about to in his, 10th Super Bowl appearance, but I think you need to start looking up for a nice contingency plan to at least compete in that division, because look at that division. They have a young Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, and if Joe Burrow is healthy, the Steelers will probably finish last place, though they wouldn't because they have a nice solid defense. But just imagine with them, with Deshaun Watson, they have a good running back. They have, Juju Smith, and then you add Deshaun Watson. That's not a bad combination right there. So it's going to be something interesting. But the flip side is if Cincinnati decides to get Deshaun Watson and they don't want to trust and put Joe Burrow right back into the saddle just yet and give him, a time to really 100% recover and give that franchise at least a good run for its money. But at the same time, they could continue to tank with their backup quarterback and get draft picks to build Joe Burrow, that offensive line. So it's going to be really interesting to see if the AFC North gets into the playoff picture. But you could also see an aging veteran and Matt Ryan slip his way through and go to the Pittsburgh Steelers as well to give them, a contention run for the playoffs. Because, Pittsburgh Steelers are always running for championships. And this is really them to make a playoff push to, challenge, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But it's going to be very, touch and go as that progresses. I would say another team, like you guys probably would say, is the Jets. The Jets wouldn't be the best location, but at the same time, I just think, Deshaun Watson and the Jets, there's just not enough weapons for him. He would literally be carrying the team on his back. So that is really rules out the question. I do like the Miami Dolphins with the trade with Tua, and then the Texans get Tua, and they can sort of build something off of that. Get a couple good picks from Deshaun Watson in the upcoming draft. So we have to see how that unfolds. Also, I will have to agree with you, Furman, with the whole Patriot saga, but it also leaves the question what happens to Cam Newton as well. So we have to see how that also unfolds if Deshaun Watson decides to go to New England. But let me read some of our viewers' comments. So Kirsty Wilson has to say Deshaun Watson to the Patriots. I think that's very self-explanatory. We definitely hit on that. We have Henry G. Deshaun Watson to Carolina, guaranteed. I'm going to have to backlash that and say Teddy Bridgewater, if he's healthy, why do you need another quarterback when Teddy Bridgewater can get the job done when he's healthy? So if he's injured again, then obviously it makes sense you try to bring Deshaun Watson in and continue that progress. Isaiah, go.
I disagree with that, Trevor. If Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers have the opportunity to go out and get a Deshaun Watson, they should jump on it right now, because I think Teddy Bridgewater is just a stopgap quarterback for right now until the Panthers find their franchise quarterback. I think the Panthers, correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor, I might be wrong on this, but the Panthers do have a lot of draft picks. They've got a top draft pick in the upcoming NFL draft. They got a lot of money, so they can afford to pay a king's ransom for Deshaun Watson. It's just a matter of, does Watson want to go back home to Carolina because he went to school at Clemson, which is nearby from where the Panthers play? And does Matt Rule think that Deshaun Watson is the guy that can take that team not only to the playoffs, but deep into the playoffs? So they're going to have to discuss that, but I could definitely see Carolina being a great fit for Deshaun Watson.
That division is tough as it is already. I'm assuming Tom Brady doesn't retire after this season and continues to press forth. And now you have Jameis Winston's probably going to take the helm of the Saints. Matt Ryan's probably going to stay on the Falcons. So now you're going to add Deshaun Watson in the mix. And it's looking like the Seattle Seahawks division with the 49ers and the Rams and the Cardinals at this rate. So the NFC is starting to slowly stack up, which is pretty impressive. But at the same time, it's who's going to come out on top and be in the Super Bowl? That's what it really boils down at the end of the day. Richard, his pick was, what about the Rams? I think that's also an interesting pick. But at the same time, you have Jared Goff, and he's still doing all right, though some people may say his performance is not great, but he got to the playoffs this year, so you can't really get rid of a playoff quarterback who just got you there. And he's already been to a Super Bowl, though he lost. He could probably get back to it and maybe win it. Just depends who's on the other side. But Isaiah, you got something.
It's that contract. That contract is nearly impossible to move off of from. We're going to get into this later with Stafford, but that's why I don't think the Rams will be able to trade for Stafford, because not the Lions, but the Texans will want picks. They're going to want players for Deshaun Watson, and the Rams, they don't have a first-round pick until, I believe, 2024. The Rams also don't have a second-round pick until at least 2023. And also that Jared Goff contract, if the Rams were to move on from him, I believe they have to eat at least – they will have a dead cap hit of $20+ million. So I see the Rams as a very unlikely fit for Deshaun Watson.
And then going back to Henry G, he said Garoppolo go back to New England. I know it's not on our topic for tonight, but gentlemen, do you see this as a possibility that Garoppolo goes back to New England?
I could see it because Belichick really loves Jimmy Garoppolo, and also I think that San Francisco, if they do end up pulling the deal off for Matthew Stafford, I don't see any team that is going to give San Francisco like a first, second, or third round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's just too injury prone. He can't stay on the football field. And when he's on the football field, the guy's really inconsistent. So I think the highest pick San Francisco could get for Jimmy Garoppolo is maybe a fifth or a sixth round pick. And, maybe Belichick will throw out a sixth round pick or a fifth round pick to get Jimmy G back into the fold.
Isaiah, I also have a take on this. So I think it's definitely possible to take back Jimmy G to the Patriots because Brian Hoyer was also a player that was backing up Brady with the Patriots, and Belichick still had no hesitation and got him right back in. So in my opinion, I think Belichick has a lot of interest in his former players. He will bring them back, and I think Belichick will find a way to bring Jimmy G back, at least to give him a second chance. And I think the only main issue for Jimmy G, at least if he goes to the Patriots, is his durability. Regardless of his accuracy issues that I've seen from the Niners this year, I think Bill Belichick's going to find a way to just address those issues really fast. So durability is my main concern. Other than that, I think Bill Belichick is definitely going to try to bring him back if the 49ers make a move this season.
All right, gentlemen. Moving on, Casey King says that Deshaun Watson will not be traded in the division, but there's just too many options and there's just way too many rumors. I agree. We're still, in the NFL season, but at the tail end. But off season I will definitely say, is going to be the most interesting in the world of seasoned veteran quarterbacks. And you could see teams, try to trade up and get rid of these veterans to bring either new talent to their team because they have different pieces and weapons around, or just make things happen. But I think that will put it until, in the offseason. Kirsty Wilson comes back with, wonder what will Callan think about Deshaun Watson to NO B.S. And as we also continue with Israel, I'm sorry for butchering your name wrong, but how about the Raiders, fellas? Deshaun Watson to the Raiders, adding more quarterback drama. They just have too many quarterbacks. They have Derek Carr, Mariota. Now you're going to add Deshaun Watson. Is this just a quarterback clinic at this point? I don't think so. And our man Shri coming in with the Colts or the Dolphins is a great destination for Watson. And he could also argue for, he's from Georgia, so maybe the Falcons too. Seems like they'll move on from Matt Ryan. So we'll see what the offseason does. Fingers crossed that Matt Ryan gets traded somewhere so I can hop on this Matt Ryan bandwagon before it actually gets underway and tell everybody I told you so. But with that, gentlemen, we will move on to our next topic with the Rams and Matt Stafford. So today, the Rams have been, in the rumor mill of this, and they are considering to try to get Matt Stafford. I have no idea if this is really necessary. I know we talked a little bit about it earlier when one of our fans made a comment about it, but I just don't think the Rams really need Matt Stafford when they already have Jared Goff and he's done so much for that organization. It's not like he's losing and having like 3-13 season. He's been in the playoffs already. Though he may not have clinched a division, maybe he has clinched a division, but at the same time, he is a playoff contending quarterback. Why are you trying to get rid of him to bring Matt Stafford, who hasn't been in the playoffs in quite some time? So I'll go to Isaiah. What are your thoughts and reactions to this whole rumor mill going on with the Rams and Matt Stafford?
Well, when I saw this come out today from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, I immediately saw a lot of people on Twitter freaking out about it, especially 49ers fans. They were like, oh my God, the Niners, John Lynch, go hurry up and give them our 12th pick and get Matthew Stafford so the Rams can't get Stafford. my immediate reaction to seeing all these Niner fans flipping out about this was this emoji right here, the face palm. Ladies and gentlemen, relax. This is all part of trade negotiations. I call complete BS on this move. And the reason why, or not this move, this story, I completely call BS on it is because I think that this is the Detroit Lions leaking this story out because there's not that much interest like they originally anticipated in Matthew Stafford. They're trying to get either the Niners, the Colts, or whoever that is in the bidding for Matthew Stafford to up their price or up the compensation up for Matthew Stafford. I think that this is what it is. When you look at the Rams, right? Let's break this down, ladies and gentlemen. The Los Angeles Rams, they have Jared Goff right now. I believe he's under contract for the next 3-4 years. Jared Goff's contract is nearly impossible to move. If you were to release Jared Goff, you would have a $20 million plus dead cap. That is a lot of money. And also, if you were to cut him before June 1st, it is $65 million in dead cap. That is just way too much money. The Rams are not going to cut him, so they're going to have to trade him. And who is going to trade for Jared Goff? Jared Goff this season, he had kind of an inconsistent year. He's been inconsistent the last couple of years. Plus, he dealt with injuries. I don't see any team trading for that massive contract of Jared Goff. And when you look at the Rams draft picks, they don't have a first-round pick this season. Or this year. They don't have a first-round pick, I believe, until 2024. They don't have a second-round pick until – no, they do have a second-round pick this year, but after this year, I believe they don't have a second-round pick until 2023. So it's going to be really, really tough for the Rams to get Jared Goff. The only way I could see the Rams getting not Jared Goff, getting Matthew Stafford is if the Rams – or if the Lions somehow accept a deal which they send Matthew Stafford to LA for Jared Goff straight up in a quarterback-for-quarterback swap. And I highly doubt the Lions are going to do something that dumb when they are rebuilding. They need draft picks. They need a lot more assets to rebuild that team. They need a young quarterback. They're going to draft a young quarterback as well. So I really don't see it. I think that this is just the Lions trying to leak a story out to try to get either the Niners, the Colts, whoever's bidding for Matthew Stafford to give more in a trade package for Stafford.
All right, and Furman, what do you think of this hot mess going on in the rumor mill with the Rams and Mr. Stafford?
Well, the Rams spend a lot of money on free agents, and they've done that for like the past few years. So I think this is a very risky decision for the Rams to make if they're going to spend this much money on a guy like Matthew Stafford. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting decision because the Rams are still very strong playoff contenders. Under Sean McVay, they haven't had a losing season, and yeah, they're obviously not the same Super Bowl team that they once had in 2018 when they went 13-3, but they still made it to the playoffs this year at 10-6. Now, I'm gonna go off with Jared Goff's current situation, how he's doing with the Rams and his contract. So, in my opinion, I think it's a really bad decision to cut Jared Goff for the exact same reason Isaiah just said previously. Because if you cut Jared Goff right now, and considering the fact that you spent so much money on your players in the free agency already, it's gonna cost you $65 million for the Rams to cut Jared Goff, and that's obviously not worth it because you don't have a lot of room for error as the Rams right now. Right now, you have a lot fewer draft picks, and all of your players are basically getting paid a lot of money. So you need to be very smart with this decision because you're still a playoff contending team. So Goff, I'm going to elaborate more into him right now and I'm going to explain why I think this might be actually a good decision for the Rams. So I've seen a lot of issues with Jared Goff, especially after the Super Bowl loss. He's played really well during his first 2 seasons under McVay, but ever since this O-line has been playing a lot worse in the last 2 seasons, he has also played a lot worse. And I also see this a lot every time because I see him play the 49ers twice a year, and I kind of see, how he makes reads, how he makes throws. And I'll just tell you this, even with the really good offensive line, Jared Goff, Jared Goff's off the Rams offensive line did a really good job protecting him against the 49ers, but a lot of the easy throws he made, especially to the sidelines, were overthrown. They were not accurate passes. He has a lot of accuracy issues right now, regardless of whether he's under pressure or not. And that is exactly why you've seen his quarterback rating go down. And on top of that, if the O-line struggles, he plays even worse. He fumbles the ball under pressure, I think as much as Carson Wentz. And he also has terrible pocket presence. I've seen this from Jimmy G, and Jared Goff is no different. He runs into his collapsing pockets all the time and takes horrible sacks. He doesn't look to throw the ball away, and he just doesn't seem to have that trait of making good decisions when he's under pressure. So I think it is a good idea to somehow have this deal done, because right now you're still a playoff contending team, and if you take the risk, Stafford, in my opinion, is way better than Goff. And if you have Stafford on your team with the Rams right now, he is willing to make these really good decisions. He makes accurate decisions too. He's not going to have these issues you see from Goff. He does fumble the ball quite a bit, but at the same time, he has shown that throughout all these, I believe, 9 to 10 seasons with the Lions, he has become their franchise quarterback, and they've rebuilt around him many times. So if he goes to the Rams right now, I think the Rams will be even better than just playoff contenders. And my only issue with this decision is obviously the money, but my second issue with this decision is that Stafford also has bad mobility, just like Goff. He doesn't really move around the pocket very well, or he doesn't move out of the pocket as well. And Sean McVay and the Rams offense, they run a lot of bootlegs, and I haven't really seen Stafford kind of fit into that offense, especially with the Lions. I don't really see a lot of bootlegs from him. I don't see a lot of play action rollouts, so it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts to that. So that's my take on this whole situation.
All right, gentlemen. I just don't think the Rams really need to go make the investments. I think you have enough, I guess, talent around Jared Goff to make something happen. You can just give him a good, solid line. The Rams' defense is like on par, creating good turnovers for them, and allows Jared Goff to manage the game well. You could say Jared Goff is not that quarterback to win those big games, and he's more of a game manager, and that is fine. But at the same time, when you get in the playoffs, I think that game management aspect is definitely very crucial when you're going up against an elite quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady now that he has to face. And if you're able to manage this game well and outmanage some of the elite quarterbacks that are left in the league, then he's really it's just like a game away from him being back in the Super Bowl and facing Patrick Mahomes or whatever AFC quarterback is on the other end for him. But, I'll go to some of our viewers' comments. Casey King, he says his Rams have a better shot at giving Stafford than Deshaun Watson. I kind of have to agree with that. Deshaun Watson has probably had that high price tag, but if you want something that's more consistent and you like a pocket passer, I think Matt Stafford is definitely the go-to for that. And Jared Goff is a similar pocket passer. He doesn't really tuck and go as you see a lot of the mobile quarterbacks. He sits back in the pocket and he will hit it to Woods down deep and just, change up the different play calls. Kirsty Wilson says, the Rams are way too invested in Jared Goff. I'm going to have to agree with her on that. It's just you don't really need a new quarterback. He's, like I said earlier, he's not really tanking. But at the same time, it'd be different if he was was injury prone and he kept getting injured year after year. I would say Jimmy G as an example. But, there I rest my case. And then last but not least, for Casey, they might end up just doing, a trade with the Lions GM because he was a, former director for, scouting the Rams. But we'll see what happens. If they don't get Stafford, he's okay with bringing Goff back. And maybe Will Ford will challenge him and, see if he can push Jared Goff to, make his job better. And Shri, says Rams need a competent quarterback now before their defense stops being elite. So they need to make the change. Shree, that is very true. But at the same time, I think you need that. I guess you have to decide if they're trying to do the Super Bowl push now or they're trying to wait for the longevity for the veteran quarterbacks to leave the picture, where you just only have either maybe Russell Wilson just left out of the veterans and Aaron Rodgers on a different team, and then maybe like open up the playing field. But it's really hard to tell what the rest of the field is going to end up becoming. But continue in the world of Matthew Stafford. If the 49ers decide to trade him for their 12th round pick, is it really necessary? I know Isaiah, our lovely scriptwriter for tonight's show, put this on. So Isaiah, I need you to explain why the 49ers should try to get Matthew Stafford and trade away their 12th pick.
1,000%. The 49ers should trade that 12th pick to the Detroit Lions for Matthew Stafford. No doubt about it. No hesitation. Just do it right now. If that is what is keeping you from getting over that hump and getting Matthew Stafford, John Lynch, do it. Give them the 12th pick. And the reason being is that draft picks are not guaranteed. Yes, they could turn out to be superstars. They could turn out to be middle-tier players, but also they could turn out to be bust. And if you look at the 49ers draft history under Shanahan and Lynch, it's been really, really inconsistent. You start off with Solomon Thomas, the first pick of the Shanahan-Lynch era. Solomon Thomas has been a complete bust with the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think he's even had more than 5 sacks in a season in 5 years with the 49ers. They're going to be moving on from him in the offseason, so he's going to be gone. That's a bust right there. And then you go to Reuben Foster, another bust who he was a very talented linebacker coming out of Alabama, but he was plagued by injuries and also plagued by off-field trouble. This guy could not stay out of trouble to save his life. When he did stay out of trouble, when he was able to play on the football field, he couldn't stay healthy. So that turned out to be another bust. I think he only lasted like 2 years with the San Francisco 49ers before the 49ers cut him due to issues with domestic violence. And then you look at guys like Nick Bosa. Obviously, that worked out. Nick Bosa had a fantastic year last season before he tore his ACL this season. And then you go to guys like Javon Kinlaw. The jury is still out on Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw only had, I believe, 1.5 sacks this past season, but he was great when it came to stopping the running game. And also he did have an interception off of Jared Goff. So the jury is still out on him. But, draft picks, like I say all the time, they are inconsistent or not inconsistent. They are like a gamble. You don't know if you're getting a potential superstar. You don't know if the guy could turn out to be a middle-tier player or he could turn out to be a bust. Matthew Stafford is a proven commodity. The guy has played 12 seasons in the NFL, and in 9 out of 12 seasons, the guy has played 16 games. He's played all 16 games in 9 out of 12 seasons. He's basically an Iron Man. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he's old, he can't stay healthy. Well, Matthew Stafford has played 5 times more games than Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo can't stay healthy to save his life. I would rather bank on Matthew Stafford than bank on Jimmy Garoppolo. And Matthew Stafford throws a better deep ball than Jimmy Garoppolo. And that is a trait that I think would help unlock this Kyle Shanahan offense and take it to the next level, because you have a lot of guys that are very fast and can speed down the field. And Jimmy, when he sees the guys down the field, he just can't deliver the football to them. He doesn't put enough touch on the ball, or he puts too much touch on the ball, and it ends up being an incomplete pass or an interception. And I think Matthew Stafford is going to be a major upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo. And I know the 49ers right now, they're in win-now mode. This team is built to win now. I think their window is maybe 2-3 years. And then like, we'll see what happens down the line. But Matthew Stafford comes in. He's under contract for the next 2 years. That's perfect. You can win right now with him, and then it will give you 2-3 years to find that replacement. And once you find him, you can sit him on the bench behind Matthew Stafford and groom him. And once Stafford decides either to move on from the Niners or he retires, you can bring in that rookie or that quarterback that you drafted, and it will be a seamless transition. So I think definitely the 49ers should give up that first-round pick, number 12, to make it happen, because I'd rather have a proven commodity than an unproven commodity where you don't really know how that draft pick is going to pan out.
And Furman, what about you? Where do you think, is this really necessary for the 49ers to give up their 12th round pick to try to get Matthew Stafford?
I would say no, because I have to say no, actually, because I disagree with what Isaiah said about Matthew Stafford versus Jimmy G in terms of durability. I think Matthew Stafford has a lot of issues right now with his durability. I can't guarantee that Matthew Stafford is going to last us a full season right now, because in his last 2 years with the Lions, he's been constantly getting injured after injuries, and he had to sit out the season with a back injury, I believe, in 2018 or 2019. So this is an ongoing trend for Matthew Stafford, and I see it kind of leading more towards like an Andrew Luck type of situation where injuries are just derailing more of his career than his actual gameplay and practices. So this is my biggest concern for Stafford right now. And if you're going to really delve deeper onto this, the 49ers offensive line is terrible. They have failed to protect our quarterbacks consistently every game. McGlinchey and the right guards have been horrible. And if you're going to expect Stafford with his recent histories of injuries, and also he's not very mobile, I don't know how he's going to be able to survive this pocket and actually play a full season. And if you're going to risk the first round pick just to get a player like Matthew Stafford who's injury prone, I think this is really, really risky, because Matthew Stafford, the offensive line in the Lions has always been bad already, and he's been hurt by it. So, and on top of that, I know Isaiah said that first round picks are risky. They're a gamble, high risk, high reward type of decision. But you still have Jimmy G right now. Yeah, he's not the perfect quarterback, but if you do draft a quarterback by chance, like I'm gonna just throw it out there again, Trey Lance, if he's still on the board, you don't need to start him right away. You could literally spend at least a year to develop him. And I still think that if the 49ers continue to keep the similar type of players right now on this roster, you could have a guy like Trey Lance break out in like the second or third season and let go of Jimmy G. And it's not just a quarterback that you could draft in the first round. There's a lot of issues that the 49ers still have. One of those being the secondary. And if Patrick Surtain is still in the draft board, I think we need to take another secondary just to help out Jason Verrett, K'Wan Williams, and quite possibly Emmanuel Mosley. So our secondary needs a lot of help, and that could be our high risk pick right there. And finally, I think we need to address the blocking, pass blocking especially. So you probably need to go out your way a little bit and kind of improvise. Analysts are saying right now Kyle Pitts as like the tight end being drafted, he could help us with blocking. I don't really know if he's actually a blocker, but if he is a blocker, that would be great. But that would be a bit of an improvisation under Shanahan's offense. Or we could draft another better right guard or right tackle, and hopefully, I just hope Shanahan, if he listens to me, I think he just has some type of thing with McGlinchey. I think we need to let go of McGlinchey and replace him with someone better, as well as replace a right guard in some sorts. Anywhere in those positions on right guard, right tackle, first round pick is right there on the spot. We need to clock that in for an offensive tackle.
All right. I know I'm looking at the 49ers. Yes, they need a quarterback. Jimmy G's getting too injury prone, and you need to move on. But I just don't think Matthew Stafford is that type of quarterback for the 49ers. Yes, their defense is incredible. yes, they have a good, decent wide receiver core, but it's like, can you get a quarterback that, can hit the deep ball pretty often? And, I think I will go to Shree's comment. What about Matt Ryan reuniting with Shanahan? So, I think this is pretty reasonable if Ryan decides to go out there. You know, the 49ers and Matt Ryan, I like that. Get him in that nice, golden brown jersey. See how he performs. I want to go to your guys' thoughts. What do you think if Matt Ryan ends up going to the 49ers and they, try to pursue him instead of Matthew Stafford? I'll go to Isaiah.
I think that Matthew Stafford is still the better option because I think that Stafford is younger and he's, Ryan for me, I feel like has tailed off the last couple of years. And I think that even though Ryan, like the price to get Ryan is not that much, I would still rather have Stafford because I think he has a better arm than Ryan. I think that you could, Stafford, like I said, he's only 32 years old. He's played, I think, 12 seasons in the league, and he's a guy that, has shown to be very durable. And I just don't know with Matt Ryan entering 35 years of his life. I don't know if Matt Ryan will be able to stay healthy because he did miss a good chunk of this past season due to injury. So I don't know if Matt Ryan will be a good option for the Niners. Obviously, I would take him if you can't get Stafford, if you can't get Deshaun Watson, but he would be like third on my list in terms of 49ers quarterback options.
Before I get to Furman, Kirsty Wilson said Matt Ryan going to the 49ers would be interesting. So, Furman, what is your really thought, Matt Ryan going to the 49ers?
I still think Stafford might be a better option here. It's a slight trade-off because Stafford's younger. He's only 32. Matt Ryan's 35. And usually when you get older at around that type of age range, your arm starts to give out. And I've seen a lot of Matt Ryan's games this season, and I've seen plays where he could have easily thrown a touchdown, and he knew it in his mind that he could have thrown that earlier if he was younger, but his arm just didn't give him that same type of strength to make that throw. So Stafford's definitely a better decision here, but I would say, like I said, Stafford in 2019 he went through a huge injury, and I'm afraid that Stafford will go through the same injuries under this 49ers offensive line right now. And on top of that, Matt Ryan, he has playoff experience. He's won a lot more games than Stafford, who is 0-3 in the playoffs. Matt Ryan knows what it's like to win playoff games with Shanahan. And Matt Ryan, if you watch him play games, he gets rid of the ball really fast. He knows exactly where to throw. And we have a lot of good receivers right now, and George Kittle. If these guys have decent separation and runs after the catch, that's how Matt Ryan benefits and thrives on offense. And obviously, if you give Matt Ryan time, you don't even have to give him too much time. He can still make these deep balls. It's obviously not going to be as accurate as before, but he's still able to understand and be aware of when to make these good decisions on the fly and really fast. And he's always been known to get rid of the ball fast, regardless of the offensive line. So there's a really good trade-off here, but I'd still say Stafford's a slightly better option.
I'm going to have to counter you with that, Furman. I think if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, I think the better option is probably going to go with Matt Ryan. You have that veteran experience in the playoffs, and you have, your 49ers team has been in the Super Bowl before, so now you take a quarterback that has lost the Super Bowl, is probably seeking vengeance to get that opportunity to be back in the postseason and get to that Super Bowl. And now you have the 49ers team looking to make their revenge after getting embarrassed in 2 Super Bowls with, the Ravens not being able to win at that time, and then now losing to the Chiefs. So I think there's a lot of bitterness in that organization saying, can we finally win a Super Bowl again? The last time we won it was in the 90s. Can we win it in the modern era almost? So I think they're really going to go after a Super Bowl. It's like how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went after Tom Brady, and look at them now. They're in the Super Bowl in one season. No one would have really thought that, Tom Brady would take them all the way to the Super Bowl this season. A lot of people had Tom Brady get into the playoffs, but probably losing either in the divisional round or in the NFC Championship game, depending what ended up happening. But now he's in the Super Bowl, and all the haters would be like, dang, we just screwed up. But, they're probably going to continue to hate on him until he wins it. But, the more of the story is, age really doesn't really matter in the NFL, it looks like at this point, with Tom Brady leading the helm. But we have to wait and see how this Super Bowl, prevails. And Kirstie Wilson brings in a great fact. The Niners' last Super Bowl was in 1994, so Super Bowl 28. So, oh wait, no, never mind. Super Bowl 29. Thank you, Kirstie. But, Casey King says that Matt Ryan going to the Patriots, he also went to Boston College, so going back home to Boston, getting that experience is also interesting. Shree thinks that, Matt Ryan has better Alex Smith. He can ride a good defense and run game to the playoffs and make good enough throws, and that's what the Niners need, in my opinion. So as we, can close this, NFL quarterback discussion, I think, the Niners should probably, in reality, I think, go after Matt Ryan. But at that, I'll just leave it at that. Leave it up to the fans and all our fantasy theories out there where Matt Ryan can go. But only time will tell in this offseason. But now let us move on to revisiting our preseason picks for this year. Isaiah, can you please bring up that screen? Look at that. Let's look at some of Isaiah's picks.
Dust it off. Dust it off. It's been a long time since we've seen these.
So for Isaiah, his picks were for the NFC West was the 49ers. They got injury prone, so that was out. So Isaiah's 0 for 1. Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the, NFC South. We'll give them a tie because they ended up making the playoffs on that one. So Isaiah's 0-1-1. Minnesota Vikings winning the NFC North. Fat chance they lost. Sunk the boat. The Minnesota. So Isaiah's 0 for 2 for 1. The Dallas Cowboys winning this division. Isaiah 0 for 3 for 1. The Saints in the wild card. Well, they didn't win the wild card, so Isaiah is 0 for 3 for 2. Green Bay in the wild card. I think they got the bye, so he's 3 for 3. And the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card. Isaiah, you finally get your first dub. How do you feel?
I feel great. Pop that champagne, Trevor. Get
so
that
Isaiah,
champagne.
your picks were 1, 3, and 3. Oh man, now let's go to Furman. So Furman's picks. He got
Trevor, don't even talk about it. I mean, all my picks for the NFC just looks completely delusional. I mean, I'll just give us a quick explanation on how it went wrong. Look, in the NFC West, there's always this surprise team that goes on top, and it was the 49ers and Rams. So I was like, okay, Arizona has to go on top right now, right? They have a good team, and they decide to choke in the second half of the season. I had that pick right going all along until that moment. Now, I would say that the only pick I would be proud of is Tampa Bay in the NFC South because they're in the Super Bowl. And I've always predicted that this team is not going to be perfect, but they're going to get out of their ways in the second half of the season after the team chemistry gets better, and that's where they're going to start their rise. But wow, I was really surprised that they lost to the Saints twice, including getting blown out by them, but they actually beat them in the playoffs when it mattered. So that was the only pick I'm proud of, but I still lost all of my picks pretty much. I think the only pick I got right was the Saints and Seattle making it into the wild card. So it's pretty similar to Isaiah's. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Hey, you're one better than Isaiah. Take that with pride.
Don't even get me started on the AFC pick.
No, don't get me started with the AFC for you, Isaiah.
We'll go to that once, Trevor. It's your turn to face the music on your picks.
You're gonna have to scroll down. The viewers can't see my picks, Isaiah.
All right, I'll try to. Ooh, that's a little bit too far.
a little bit going.
You have your picks? Oh, right there.
All right. So my picks: the Seattle Seahawks winning the division. Did they win the division? No, they got wild card, right?
No, they won the division. They won
Oh,
the NFC West.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm 1-0. The Saints winning the division. 2-0, baby. Green Bay winning the division. 3-0. Oh, man, guys. Oh, look at my picks. You know, this is why I was the king of the tables and pick'ems, but finished second, you know? My picks were spot on. The Dallas Cowboys, they have potential, but injuries slaughtered this pick. And that's why they weren't there, and the Washington football team got in. If they were healthy, I'd probably be 4-0 right now. The 49ers let me down because they got hurt, so that eliminated them out of the wild card contention. Same with Kirk Cousins. You know, my captain let the boat sink. So I am
Hey,
now.
Trevor, don't blame it on Cousins. He played great in the second half of the season. It was the defense. Let's admit it. Minnesota's defense let them down.
He was close, but he failed in the end. And then I put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card. So I really only miss 3 of those picks. I think that's a pretty good job, besides 2 of those teams running into injury issues. So I will gladly take that. Now let's go on to the AFC division, gentlemen. Isaiah, I don't know how our fans are going to react to this, but let's keep going. All right, for Isaiah, you have the Denver Broncos winning this division. Please explain yourself, please.
That was the dumbest pick that I have made in my life. I made the mistake of, drinking the Drew Lock Kool-Aid, after he went 4-1 the final 5 games of the season. I hyped him up to be like this next great quarterback of the Denver Broncos. I overhyped him a lot, and I was wrong on that. I said that he was going to throw for like over 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns and win MVP. That it makes me look absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what kind of maybe beer that I was drinking before I made that pick, but it was so dumb, and I regret it, and I learned my lesson. I am never picking against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in that division.
You said you weren't afraid of him. What happened? He spooked you now, finally? And then his next pick was the Indianapolis Colts. That's a good pick.
That wasn't a bad pick, to be honest. Even though I know Indianapolis didn't win the division, but it was neck and neck. It came down to week 17. And if the Texans do not blow that coverage on defense in the final 15 seconds of that week 17 game against the Tennessee Titans, and I think they go to overtime, and I think the Texans actually win the game. And also, if the Titans kicker doesn't get lucky and he misses that field goal in which it hits the upright and it bounces in, I think the Texans win that game and Indianapolis wins that division. That was a very, very close battle, and it was a head-to-head, neck-to-neck race until the very end.
And then you had the Cleveland Browns. I think that one was almost perfect, though. Like, the Browns ended up falling short. I think you were pretty close with that pick. If the Browns didn't have a terrible home opening against like the Ravens or the Steelers early on, they were able to capitalize one of those 2 games. I think they probably would have clinched that division.
If they could beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, they would at least one time in the regular season.
I guess they did technically with the backups in.
If they could beat Pittsburgh, I believe it was week 2 or.
Yeah.
Week 2. Yeah, they would have won the division. It is what it is. But at least they beat Pittsburgh in the wild card game, though.
Then we have the Buffalo Bills. Good pick. Your first win in this column. Wild card, Kansas City. They were the kings of this division. Come on now. Baltimore wild card. Good pick, Isaiah. You got another dub. And then Houston. I guess this was before all the trade rumors, so I'll give you a bypass because the trade rumors really screwed up that organization.
I wouldn't say that pick, like, it wasn't bad coming into the season because even though they did lose DeAndre Hopkins and they lost a bunch of other players, the Houston Texans still have Deshaun Watson. They have a pretty good defense with J.J. Watt, and I think a lot of people did not expect the Texans definitely start 0-4 and have that season that they did this season. So, the Texans just thank Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby for ruining that franchise.
Yeah, before I get to Furman, I want to read Casey King's comment. Isaiah is really a bunch of Higgins. I'm picking the Broncos. It's Huggies. It's Higgins, Isaiah, not Huggies.
Please, Vic Fangio, I am begging you to trade for Deshaun Watson so that we could stop Patrick Mahomes from winning that AFC West division for the next 5 to 7 years. Please, trade for Deshaun Watson. Drew Lock is not the guy. Even I can stand down and admit that.
All right, now we're going to Furman. We got the Kansas City Chiefs. Good job picking the right team to win that division. Good. You're not like some people on our MI6 network.
Well, Kansas City and Mahomes is just special. Andy Reid special. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Demarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they're all special. So there's no way Denver, Las Vegas, or the Los Angeles Chargers are going to beat this team. Come on now.
Yep, it was that division from literally from the start of the season. Like, no one could really touch them at that point. Like, they were going to clean sweep them all. But I think that they did lose to the Raiders. So, it happens every now and then. But, it's part of football. You can't win them all sometimes. The next up, the Tennessee Titans. See, Furman knows how to pick his teams right every now and then. I give him
I'm telling you. It's the AFC. The AFC is very predictable, in my opinion, because they have a set of teams. Tennessee made it to the AFC Championship last year. The amount of disrespect I see from the spreadsheet against the Tennessee Titans is unreal. And you guys really think Phillip Rivers is going to carry your team to winning a division? How much has this guy done since 2006 with the Chargers at 14-2? I mean, every single game I see from him, he just loses by 7 points and throws a pick in every comeback drive. So you gotta hand that off to Tennessee. No brainer right there.
All right, and then Pittsburgh Steelers, they were lucky. They started off hot in the year, and then they just fell flat. And the Browns put them in the place in wild card weekend. But you got the pick right for the division, so you're 3-0. You're looking, pretty fly up here.
So I mean, I did get lucky. I'll admit it. I didn't think Pittsburgh was a great team, but they went 11-0, and they always seem to win the division with Big Ben. And I also had a feeling that Cleveland was probably going to be an 8-8 team or something, and the Bengals would emerge as a crazy contender. And then finally for Baltimore, just like before with RG3, Colin Kaepernick, Michael Vick, with the running quarterback, I was like, you had a 14-2 season, which was great, but NFL teams are going to start figuring you out. So I had a feeling Baltimore was going 9-7 this season, but hey, they went 11-5, and I think they actually beat Cleveland and won second place in that division. So it was a crazy comeback year for Baltimore, who were like 6-5, I think, before the end of the season. So yeah.
And then the Patriots let us down with COVID, and Cam Newton was on the right track, but he just didn't have the right tools. So Buffalo ended up winning with Josh Allen. And in my hot takes, Josh Allen going to the AFC Championship game and losing. That was my only successful hot take this year in the NFL season. So I feel proud.
I mean, Buffalo, I never sold into Josh Allen's offense, and I'm still not sold into this team because I felt like Josh Allen, I've said it a million times, he got spoiled so much this season with a really good offensive line. He has 5 or 6 seconds to throw. He didn't have that last season, and I didn't expect this season to be any much different than last season. But to my surprise, that offensive line, wow, it improved a lot. So before this season, I still had Buffalo going around 10-6, being in the wild card. But man, that offensive line gave Josh Allen so many opportunities. But they got exposed by Kansas City. They blitzed him, and you saw what he you saw what he can't do when you blitz Josh Allen. He makes a couple of iffy decisions, and he also always for some reason runs to his right at the last second and throws a ball and tries to keep that in before running out of bounds. So it's typical Josh Allen stuff, but hopefully Buffalo continues to have the same success.
And then your last two picks, Cincinnati and Denver. It seemed like you started drinking some of Isaiah's Kool-Aid. What happened, my friend? What happened?
Hey, man, I'm just going to tell you, Joe Burrow, come on now. If he didn't get hurt, would Cincinnati win 2 or 3 games this season? Joe Burrow was on fire this season. And I'm just going to tell you this. The reason why I won the MI6 Fantasy Sports Football Championship is because of the AFC conference. I had all the players from Kansas City, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh. No, not Pittsburgh. I believe it was I did have some players there, but my main guys that actually carried me throughout the season was Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. These guys are monsters on offense that can't be disrespected. And I just got so heartbroken when Joe Burrow got hurt because I knew from that point on Cincinnati's not going to have a great end to their season. They had it going. I mean, I think they have the same situation as Josh Allen. As if you fix that offensive line in Cincinnati, everything's going to change. You have Joe Mixon. You're going to have all these wideouts, crazy wideouts even. I think Uzama was their tight end who tore his Achilles in the very beginning of the season. He's also really good. So Cincinnati next season, I hope all these guys stay healthy. I still believe in this next season. I'm going to see Cincinnati making it to the wild card. At Denver, same thing. The same situation happened, but it's actually, I think it all went down with Cortland Sutton. I think after he got hurt, their offensive chemistry kind of went down. And I think that also kind of brought down Drew Lock's confidence. I actually bought into Drew Lock's great end to this season because he went 4-1 as a starter. Isaiah, you're right about that. He did have a great, promising look to the start of 2020. And on top of that, Vic Fangio, he's a defensive specialist. You've got all the great tools already, and you could just game manage your season away. But I don't know what happened on offense, honestly, because yeah, Sutton did get hurt, but Drew Lock just made terrible decisions. He's very sloppy with his footwork and overthrows receivers. So I do like his dance moves, though, but I hope to see Denver coming back next season. Oh, also, I have to mention Vic Fangio's terrible decision-making. That did not come across my mind at the beginning of this season. Hopefully, Vic Fangio fixes that before 2021.
And I guess before I go to mine, I'll read your Super Bowl picks. Isaiah, your 49ers, like said, injury prone, slaughtered their chances of getting back there. And then Furman's pick. Oh, I see what you got. What you got?
I want to make a clarification on that. So I picked San Francisco to make the Super Bowl, right? But I actually did have Tampa Bay versus San Francisco in the NFC Championship, and I had San Francisco beating Brady and Tampa Bay, with that great defense. I believe that Niners' great defense would have been able to shut down that Tampa Bay offense. But, I did not take into consideration and account for the fact that the Niners would be riddled with injuries all season long. I had San Francisco versus Kansas City in the Super Bowl. But, man, if I had picked Tampa Bay to beat San Francisco, I would have got my Super Bowl prediction right, even though I had got all my predictions mostly wrong prior to the Super Bowl prediction.
I don't know what to tell you, Isaiah. I do not know what to tell you. And then Furman's pick was Kansas City. I feel like that's not a bad pick because everyone thought they were going to get back there and repeat. So obviously this story holds true. They took care of business in this postseason, though there was a couple scary scenarios when Patrick Mahomes got a concussion. Could unravel a lot of people's picks for the Kansas City to repeat, but we will have to wait and see, what the Super Bowl brings out. And can Patrick Mahomes be probably the youngest quarterback to ever repeat? We'll have to, see
do we have our matchups for the Super Bowl? Or
I don't know. I think it's just the winner. Can we scroll over to the right a little bit, Isaiah? If it's a matchup, I think it's just the winner. Yeah, it's just the winner.
Okay. Well, I think I did have Kansas City and Tampa Bay in my mind. I think that's That had always been my prediction from the start of the season. But I still think I'll just give my early Super Bowl prediction here. In it's gonna happen in one week and 2 days. But I'll just say it. Kansas City's right here. I picked it, and I still believe they're gonna win it because Tom Brady. You saw what happened the against the Green Bay Packers. The defense mostly carried that game. Tom Brady threw 3 picks in the fourth quarter, and it was really, really sloppy. I think if you force Tom Brady to throw under pressure, his deep balls are just very, very, it's just very, very aggressive. It's just force, basically. So I think those are going to cause turnovers in Kansas City's favor. So I got Kansas City winning this one.
Gotcha. Now let me go to my bad AFC takes. Yes. My AFC takes. How it all went wrong. Yeah, I picked the Kansas City Chiefs because they're like the Chargers weren't gonna do it. The Broncos weren't gonna do it. Raiders had too many quarterbacks, so it was like no brainer, Kansas City. Indianapolis and Phillip Rivers, I believed in Phillip Rivers. He had to go out and try to prove himself, and he went and did it, but didn't win the division. Thus, the Titans ended up winning the division, but it was very close and neck throughout most of the season. And it was literally a coin toss between one of those two teams to end up winning that division. Baltimore and Lamar Jackson, I was on that MVP hype train. Thought he was going to take care of business and win that division. Steelers were going to stop him because Big Ben, coming off of an injury, wasn't going to be as sharp that he once was. Baker Mayfield and the Browns are still trying to figure out, some of their offensive issues. And it was going to be Lamar Jackson's for the taking. No, I was flat out wrong. It did not happen. But they ended up becoming a wild card team. So it wasn't that bad. The New England Patriots was plagued with COVID. And that really hurt their team. And Cam Newton didn't have any weapons. Now, the Buffalo Bills, they were my team to win go all the way to the AFC Championship game and lose. So they took care of business. So that's one thing right. The Cleveland Browns clinching a wild card berth. That was a good pick by me. I am proud because I said Baker Mayfield was going to be a league MVP. So I was running off of that high train for that. And then the Houston Texans, it was before Deshaun Watson and, Hopkins left. Well, Deshaun Watson's still there, but it was like before that team got dismantled and really screwed up everything. And then I was thinking it was going to be an AFC Championship game between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was going to be able to redeem himself and take the Baltimore Ravens to the promised land and win the Super Bowl. I don't know who the matchup was, but I thought, let me read some of our fans' predictions and what they have, to say. Kirsty Wilson said the Cowboy seasons went downhill after Dak Prescott went down with his horrible ankle injury. Yep, that's how I ended up, losing my pick. Casey King's pick was, the Rams to win the West, the Vikings to win the North, the Cowboys to win the East, the Saints to win the South. And his wild cards were the Bucks, the Niners, and the Cardinals. And boy, he'll never pick the Cards as long as Kingsbury is the coach. Yeah, I know. As you can see, I'm feeling the tired fatigue of doing these shows now. And then his AFC prediction was the Chiefs in the West, the Colts in the South, the Bills in the East, the Ravens in the North. Wild card was Titans, Steelers, Browns. That's actually pretty spot on, actually.
He got all the playoff.
He got all of the playoff pictures.
Yeah, maybe not in order, but he did get all of the playoff teams.
Because it was the Titans and the Colts that needed to be flipped.
Yeah.
And then the Ravens and the Steelers. But he has all the correct teams. So if you were going to take anything from Casey King and any future pick'ems, ladies and gentlemen, I think he's your guy for any future pick'ems that we do on the show. So listen to his advice and you'll have a great chance of being successful on pick'ems. And, I think we can move on to, our next segment is in the NBA. So just recently that the, Miami Heat ended up losing to the Clippers. And me personally, The season is still young. I understand they played 18 games, but there's a 72 game season, so there's nothing to worry about. All the Miami Heat really have to do is finish either above 500 or be 500 to literally get in. So there's nothing to worry about. But I'll let Isaiah go next. And what is your thoughts about, the Miami Heat situation?
Well, Trevor, okay. Well, Trevor, I think that the Miami Heat are in trouble, and it's not the reason that you guys think that I'm referring to. I think right now the Miami Heat, who are, I believe, 6-12 on this young campaign, they're just going through the hangover right now after the miraculous run to the NBA Finals last season. And I think that they will get their act together before the season ends and make the playoffs. If you guys haven't followed the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler has missed 10 games thus far with COVID-19. They've had a bunch of players been in and out of the lineup. So it's been a lot of inconsistency when it comes to the lineup every game for the Miami Heat. You don't really know who's in and out of the lineup every single game. And that's really hard for a team to overcome on a consistent game-to-game basis. So I think once they get their full squad back, when Jimmy Butler comes back from COVID, when I think Bam Adebayo, he has some type of injury. I might be wrong on that. But when their players get back and when their full squad gets back, I think the Miami Heat will be fine. And I think they will turn it around. But the reason why I think that the Miami Heat are in trouble is because I don't know if you guys remember this. Back in 2015, the Houston Rockets, they were led by James Harden and Dwight Howard. That Rockets team were supposed to be a really talented ball club. They were supposed to be a team that got to at least the Western Conference Finals, but they got off to a really slow start, and they didn't really get their act together and pick it up until the end near the end of the season, and they ended up getting the 8th seed in the West and having to face the loaded Golden State Warriors in the first round, and they got knocked out in 5 games. The Miami Heat, they don't want to be in that situation that the Rockets were. They better get their act together or else they will end up with a bottom 3 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs and have to face either a Boston or a Milwaukee or even a Philadelphia in the first round. And if you're a Miami fan like my guy Martin Garcia is, shout out to you, Martin, you do not want to face any of those 3 teams in round 1. You'd rather have a smooth, easy first-round matchup than either one of those 3 teams that I just named earlier that will either knock you out of the playoffs in the first round or it will take all of your energy to dethrone them and to beat them, and you will not have any more juice and energy for the second round and beyond. So Miami, they got to get their act together because I'm not worried about Miami making the playoffs. It's about playoff positioning and home court advantage for the Miami Heat. So they got to get their act together for that if they want to, make a deep run like they did last year.
And Furman, what about you? Should the Miami Heat really be in trouble, or is just the season's too young and they can make a nice bounce back later on?
I still think the season is way too young to determine the actual outcome of the entire season, because Miami Heat they've only played around 18 games right now, I think, and there's 72 total games this season, and right now their biggest issue, in my opinion, is just all their rotations got messed up. Every player's going in and out, and they're not really into rhythm offensively or defensively. You've lost Jimmy Butler for almost the entire season so far due to COVID-19. And you've also had Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, and Kendrick Nunn constantly being pushed in and out of the starting lineup. So they don't really know what their position is currently. And Bam Adebayo is the only person that has been healthy the entire season, and he's playing really well right now. I think if Jimmy Butler comes back, it might help them a lot because there's a lot of other ways they can score. And if Bam Adebayo continues to play really well right now, I think they're gonna, if everybody comes in and gets back into rhythm, they could get off in a really strong push in the second half of the season right now. And when I'm looking at the Eastern Conference, I see I see it as a complete mess because a lot of these teams that I expected to be in the top 8 seeds, they're in the bottom 8 seeds right now, and vice versa. My biggest surprise would probably be the Cleveland Cavs and the Knicks right now. They're really in the mix right now, and also the Raptors. They're going down big. They're not having a lot of success this season. I think Miami has a lot of opportunities to come back, and especially with a healthy roster. My only biggest fear for Miami is probably the Brooklyn Nets because I think that's truly the only team, regardless of your seeding position this year, that can actually have a really. It won't be a close game against Miami. I think that would be a definite blowout, a no-brainer. But my other issue with Miami is that last year I think they relied very heavily on a rotation zone defense, and that was what sort of brought them to their success all the way to the NBA Finals. They did not have a star player last year. Yes, Jimmy Butler, they had him. They had Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero on and off, not really healthy, and Duncan Robinson having his career nights in the regular season. But there wasn't really like a standout player that would lead them and was their main scorer. It was mainly their defense that brought them all the way up to the NBA Finals. And I think this year they're just getting exposed, and their defense hasn't been the same. It's been pretty sloppy, and they have a lot. They commit a lot of turnovers themselves, which cancels out on a lot of the good possessions they have, especially defensively. So I think the NBA is slowly sort of figuring them out and just having a lot of ways to work around what their rotations are, how they respond to each offense's attack right now. So I think Miami's main concern is defense right now. I think they have to figure out how to get their players back together in rhythm and just keep a lot of good possessions and not waste any of them.
And all right, that will do for us on our NBA segment. But gentlemen, let us now get ready for our Power 5.
Персональный спутник.
Gentlemen, our Power 5 segment tonight is Top 5 Sea Creatures. So Isaiah, introduce your Power 5 for sea creatures.
Yes, this is like our first nature Power 5 that we've done here on No BS. I am very, very excited to do this. And, there was a lot of creatures. There's just creatures in the world and in the ocean. So this was like really, really tough just to narrow it down to a top 5. But before I get to my top 5, I'm going to give an honorable mention, and I gotta say it's the octopus. The octopus. Octopus has a lot of suction cups, and it's a very, very unique creature. And they've got like a lot of arms and legs and stuff like that. I don't even know if you call it legs or arms, but we'll keep it that way. But the octopus would be my honorable mention. But here's my top 5, ladies and gentlemen. And number 5 on this list, I'm going to go with hold on, let me pull it up. The sea turtle, right here. The sea turtle, as you guys can see. The sea turtle, it's a creature that is obviously living in the ocean. It's a very famous creature, with that hard shell. And like you see the picture, it's very cute. And I've, raised sea turtles, not sea turtles, but I have had turtles as pets back when I was a young kid. And, they always crawl around your house, and they're very easy to take care of. So I'm going to go with the sea turtle as my number 5. Let me get the other pictures. Number 4 on my list will be the eel. The eel, right there, ladies and gentlemen. The eel. Yes, you guys might think it's like really gross, but first of all, the eel is very slippery. It's very slimy. I petted it once. in a aquarium, and it was very, very slimy. I can confirm that. Plus, it's good to eat. Have you tried eel and rice? Like it's a
What?
Japanese style dish. Like
Eel. You ate eel.
yes,
Explain
eel.
yourself.
Yes, it's a Japanese dish. I'm trying to find the a picture of it, but it's so good with. Oh, it's called unagi. It's an unagi dish where it's an eel with you have the special sauce that they have and rice. It's very good. Next time you guys go to a Japanese restaurant, I really recommend you guys to get that. But I know we're not supposed to like talk about eating these sea creatures, but I just had to put that out
You
there.
should have just said, some tuna and call it a day.
Hey, I might get reported for animal abuse right there, but that's number 4 on my list. Number 3 on my list is a very, very unique creature, and it's a creature that resides where I grew up from, and that is the Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apu ladies and gentlemen, you guys probably like dropped your jaw on the ground and were like, what did Isaiah just said? Yes, I'm going to repeat it slowly. The Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apu is the state fish of Hawaii, and let me pull up a article real quick from our good friends at Wikipedia to further explain what the Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apua'a is. And give me a second, ladies and gentlemen. Right there, it is a triggerfish. It's a triggerfish. It is the state fish of Hawaii. It's got a couple of it's got 2 spines. It swims in warm water. So that is what it is. It's not really an aggressive fish. It's just like always swimming in the ocean. If you don't, trigger it, no pun intended, if you don't trigger it, then it won't really do anything to you. So that's basically my number 3. The Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apua'a is my number 3.
It sounds like you're making a chant. But it could also be a good song, though.
Yes. We should make a song of it on No BS. I think that's what we should definitely work on. But
Oh, no.
number 2 on my list, the hammerhead shark. And ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I say the hammerhead shark is my number 2, it's because look at its face. It is uniquely shaped. It's a unique creature, and it's a very vicious creature. I really like this creature a lot. When you look at it, besides the head, you kind of feel intimidation from it when you like. I hope none of you guys have swam by it, but you kind of feel intimidation by it when you're looking at the photo. And number 1 on this list, I think you guys probably know what it is.
The sea cucumber.
The dolphin. The dolphin. The cutest animal in the world. I mean, just look at this right here. It's absolutely so cute. My God, look at this picture. I just can't get enough of it, but the dolphin is my number 1. One of the cutest creatures in the world. I love the dolphin so much.
All right, Isaiah, some good Power 5s in your Power 5 segment.
Trevor, before Furman or you go, I think we should ask Callan if we could maybe make this dolphin a primary photo here on No BS.
Why?
I mean, just look at it. It's so charming.
Don't worry. I will have a better picture that we can use on No BS when I go through my Power 5. But before I get to my Power 5, I go to Kirsty Wilson's Power 5. Her Power 5 is the seahorse. Good, elegant animal. Number 4, Isaiah, is your dolphin. It has been degraded. It has been downgraded, a down tier. Number 3, the killer whale is better than the dolphin. Beautiful. Number 2 is a stingray. Ooh. And her number 1 is the starfish. Her honorable mention is the humpback whale. Majestic creature. It is. But now let me move to my Power 5 segment. So to start us off on our glorious endeavor on my sea critter journey has to start with number 5, the beluga whale. And I think this is perfect because it reminds me of us laughing at Isaiah's hot takes. So I think the beluga whale is here to stay. So when you find out Isaiah talks about Nick Mullins and you laugh yourself to sleep. Beautiful pick. The beluga whale, it has that echolocation, so it can, have that sonar to detect anything. So it's a beautiful, cute creature with its bold head. And there's an aircraft called a beluga, so it's perfect. It has a machine named after it. That's how you know the beluga whale is top notch, and that's why it has to be in number 5 at this list. My number 4 position is the saw shark. So the saw shark is a shark with a saw and as a nose, basically. So it's better than a hammerhead because it has a saw in front. So where you would go into a fight, would you have a hammer or would you have a saw? I would take a saw into a fight so I can saw some arms off. But that's just me. And I understand
Love it.
Yeah, it has a shape of a saw as well. What else we got here? My next one, my number 3, is the swordfish. Just look at that. So majestic. And swordfishes can go really big in the deep blue sea. So imagine, you're on your fishing boat. You cast your line out. You sit. And now you got to heave in the big string. And you got to heave it in. And then when I'm out in the deep blue sea, you got to bring your captain hat back so you can drive your boat around. So you can catch yourself a nice swordfish. And then our next one on my list is my number 2 is the manta ray. Very majestic creatures. I know some people would confuse it, say, oh, it's a stingray. It's not. It's a manta ray. Manta rays are beautiful and majestic, and they're fun to, as they swim above you when you're in an aquarium in that sense. And the last but not least for my Power 5 segment is the killer whale. It is so beautiful and it's majestic. And then you see him at the aquarium swimming around, having a good time. But I think the thing that really sold it to me was in the movie Happy Feet, where they were tossing Mumbo around. And I just saw all the great memes from the killer whales. And that's why I say, I got to, put this creature on this list. Furman, were you able? Well,
don't forget Shamu from SeaWorld.
Oh, you can't forget SeaWorld, but we know SeaWorld has some issues with their orcas every now and then, though, Isaiah. We know this, but, got to represent, San Diego where, calendars reside. So, those are always there. But Furman, what about you? What is your top 5 sea creatures for today?
Well, this is a very interesting topic because sea creatures are actually one of my most interesting things I've ever, it's one of the most interesting things that I'm just really curious about. The ocean is massive and there's just a lot of things going on. And I think compared to land, there's just obviously much more things to see and do. And I feel like being an animal in their perspective, there's a lot of capabilities that they have that we don't as humans, and it's very interesting just to see what's going on there. So I'm just gonna go through my list. It's very interesting. I think you guys have really interesting lists as well, but for my number 5, I'm gonna have to start this off with the anglerfish at number 5. I think this is a very, very interesting creature because look at the top of its antenna. It's like a lumen light, and this fish lives under the sea, really deep, and it's just really, 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 everywhere under the sea. When you're all the way down there, it's pitch black. You cannot see a thing. But the fact that these fish have their own types of light to, allow them to navigate around the bottom of the ocean like this is amazing. And given how big the ocean is, this is awesome. I wish I could do that in the dark without having to depend on a flashlight. So at number 4, I'm going to have to probably give this, it's a tough one. But I'm just going to wing this. I'm going to give it to the dolphin because, dolphins, they're really cute and they have a really distinctive personality. I think we can relate to them the most as well, because these guys are mammals, I believe, and they're not just gonna have to rely on the water to live. They also have to rely on land resources to live. They have to be able to breathe, and that's a lot of the traits that we have to depend on too. We're made up mostly of water, but we also have to survive on land. And I believe dolphins were the closest animals to land, and they're able to adapt to the ocean and to land, which is pretty cool. And they also have a lot of stories of dolphins, interacting really in a really friendly manner to people, and it's just a really amazing creature to be around. So, for my number three animal on the list for sea creatures, I think I'm gonna have to give it to the seahorse, because the seahorse is amazing. It's a very unique animal, and it's just, I've actually never seen any of these in an actual ocean or lake or anything. I mean, the closest I've come to seeing these type of creatures is in an aquarium, and I don't know, it's just really fascinating to me, their pose and everything. It kind of reminds me of the knight piece in chess. So it's a really cool creature. Hope to see more of these eventually. And coming off to number 2, this is probably going to be a very surprising one. I'm going to have to choose the coral as my number two animal or sea creature. And I found this hard to believe at first, because I was very surprised that corals would be considered sea creatures. Coral reefs are made up of animals, and to me, I just think of this as nature. It's not necessarily animals, but these are actually living things. They rely off of extreme temperatures and extreme environments to survive, and that's why you're seeing all these beautiful, corals around, rocks, surfaces, vents, and then all these fish swimming around it. So they make up the environment, and the environment helps them to survive, or allows them to survive in these extreme conditions. And it's just amazing. Corals, they give us a great view. They also make great souvenirs. So this has to be number 2 on my list. And then number 1 on my list, this, in my opinion, is a no-brainer. I wish I could have this capacity, because number 1 in my list, it could apply to anything. It could apply to any, variant of the species, but it's got to be the blue whale. I mean, the blue whale is just massive. It probably weighs as much as a cruise ship, or even more. I mean, the average length of a blue whale is like 70 to 80 feet. And it's just massive. And I just can't believe it, that an animal at this capacity is something that we can barely imagine on land, which isn't even possible on land. And the blue whale, its lifespan is as much as humans. So, and it is also very closely related to humans as well as animals, or they're mammals. So they rely on land to breathe, and other than that, they're also surviving in the waters. But just look at how big this is. Every time it eats, every time it drinks water or anything, I mean, it's just, the amount it can take in just one bite is insane. And just given the size of this blue whale, just tells you how big the ocean really is and how much more there is for us to explore. I wish we could do that just like the blue whale can. And the blue whale, finally, it thrives on land and water, but because of its size, it has to be number 1 on my list. It's just amazing. I mean, I wish I could be a blue whale, but that would wrap up my Power 5. So this was a pretty interesting topic for me.
All right, let me read some of our viewers' comments before we head into our final thoughts. Kirsty Wilson's comment says, "Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love dolphins, but it's just hard for her to pick a Power 5 in this topic, in this category." Casey King's Power 5 is the swordfish, seals, marlin fish, dolphins, and killer whales. Very good Power 5s. Oh, and I'm assuming Steven, we need to build an MI6 submarine. Fans, donate so we can, build the MI6 submarine, because, why not? So I can be a captain on this submarine.
I second that notion. Yes, we need an MI6 submarine so we could do some exploring in the deep sea and, explore some of these creatures that we talked about today and even the creatures that we left off our list. It would be so fascinating to, go into the ocean and see all the nice creatures that are swimming down below.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our final thoughts. All right, gentlemen, it's been an hour and almost 45 minutes on this spectacular show on season 3 of No BS, episode 3. Very 3 for 3. We should have like a meal plan that says a 3 for 3, and you get this nice, meal off of it. I don't know what you would put with an MI6, a 3 for 3, but if we were a restaurant, that's what you would get tonight. But Isaiah, what is your final thoughts?
Well, Trevor, before I get into my final thoughts, I want to thank Steven, Casey King, Christy Wilson, as well as Ishmael Lancaster, who I think is a first-time viewer tonight. Really appreciate you for tuning into our show. I also want to thank my guy Shri Anad, as well as Henry G and Richard Daniels for tuning in to our show tonight. We really appreciate you guys for all the love and the support that you give us. My final thoughts for tonight's show is I got 2 things. Number 1, John Lynch, I'm praying that tomorrow when I wake up that this will be reality, that Matthew Stafford will be a San Francisco 49er, and I will be able to trade in my Nick Mullins jersey for a Matthew Stafford jersey with the 49ers, and hopefully we can see my guy number 9, Matt Stafford, lead this team, the 49ers, with my coach Kyle Shanahan to win some Super Bowls, because it's been a long time since the Niners have won a Super Bowl. I believe it's been 29 years since the Niners last won a Super Bowl. It's been a long time, so that drought needs to end. So hopefully John Lynch can pull it off for Matthew Stafford. And my other final thought for tonight's show is, ladies and gentlemen, please go to the Sliced Fruit Podcast Instagram account. I was on with my friends Gigi Shu and Lor Xing Shu. We talked about my experiences in sports podcasting and the sports media industry, as well as working for the A's and working for the 49ers. And we just talked about my journey the last couple of years, my life journey the last couple of years. It was a very good show. Really recommend you guys to go check it out. You guys can check out the show on Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts, Spotify, and all your podcasting channels out there. Go check it out. Really recommend you guys too. It was a very good show.
And Furman, your final thoughts for tonight.
Just want to really thank everybody for tuning into our show. Just want to thank you guys especially Trevor, for hosting us for No BS every week. We miss Callan. Hopefully, he's doing well as well. Thank you to the audiences that has been supporting us. Thank you for the usual audiences that show up to watch every single one of our episodes. It's been great, and I hope to continue this. I hope that we'll see a lot more exciting news, especially in the NFL within this coming week as the free agency nears. And yeah, hopefully everybody stays safe and take care and enjoy their weekend.
Yep, I will say it's been a fantastic show, gentlemen. It's been, a very good 3 for 3 so far on No BS. Can't wait for episode 4 next Friday as we, get ready for the Super Bowl and all that excitement ramped up for that. Just want to do a quick announcement that our shows and our schedule, I know we haven't really got our paid shows straightened out for our images yet, but in the coming days, we'll get our lineup situated. So in February, we'll have a nice, fresh lineup when we are live and what days we're going to be and all of the time slots. So as of right now, on Mondays and Wednesdays, Wild Sports Talk at 7:30 Pacific time. Tuesdays, we are off to let us rejuvenate and come up with some great topics for Wild Sports Talk on Wednesday. That one dude, John Alcorn, tune in on Thursdays. I guess 11:30 Central, so 10:30 Pacific time. Make sure you tune into that. Back at it here on Friday with No BS at 9:30 Pacific time or 10 depending on the time. Isaiah, I see you have something.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick announcement before you continue with the schedule, Trevor, and that is I will actually be hosting a brand new MI6 baseball show starting next week, Tuesday. I believe we're going to start the show at around 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 Eastern, and it's going to be a show all about MLB. We're going to dive into the news and notes of baseball, and when the baseball season does in fact get started, we're going to talk about the games as well as if there was any moves that were made in baseball. So looking forward to that next week, Tuesday, here on the MI6 Sports Network. And also, before you go back into the schedule, Trevor, just want to make a quick note, no fan response tomorrow.
And yep, thank you, Isaiah. We'll continue off of that. So no fan response tomorrow. And then we have the night shift at 10:30 Pacific time on Saturday. And lastly, to close out the week is, the night shift at 10:30 Pacific time on Sunday. And that will conclude the MI6, schedule for this week. Make sure you tune in for your favorite shows and your favorite, hosts. And that will do it for us on the MI6 for No BS. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your, Pro Bowl weekend and take care.
Yeah. 3-6, Mafia.
Yeah.
Whoa. Hey, yeah. Whoa.
Say what? 3-6 Mafia. It's going down.